Carson Cytrunk was a 24-year-old welder living in rural central Mississippi. His friends, his family, they all called him a gentle giant 6'4", loved hunting, loved fishing. And he had this defining trait that, well, it sadly became a vulnerability. He was just genuinely trusting of everyone he met.
And that trusting nature is, exactly what a predator looks for. Carson met a 20-year-old woman named Insco through Snapchat.
Right.
And from the persona she put out there, he just saw this fun-loving local girl. What we're doing today is exploring how quickly that seemingly casual online connection became a calculated, deadly trap.
And the mission of this deep dive is to show you exactly how investigators piece together a physical crime when the entire trail of deception really started and was built in the digital world. We've got a stack of source material on this investigation, and it's really a masterclass in modern forensics meeting old-school police work. We'll cover the frantic timeline of the missing person search, the role of this cutting-edge automotive data, they call it telematics, and then ultimately how all this painstaking forensic work unmasked a killer operating behind a truly chilling online persona.
Let's get into it.
So the countdown really begins on a Sunday night in 2022. Carson's getting ready to head out to meet this girl from Snapchat. He has a brief, sort of mundane chat with his father, who is sitting at the table. His dad just asks if he was tired. Carson says, yeah, but he's heading out on a date. And the last words they exchanged were just, I love you.
And Carson's response, I love you too. And what immediately set off alarms for the family was Carson's pattern. He'd met women on social media before, but he was always transparent. And crucially, he never stayed overnight.
He always came home.
He always came back home. So when his mother, Darlene, gets home on Monday night and sees his truck, that really distinctive silver truck with the dark hood, is gone, she just had this immediate, profound sense that something was wrong.
She texted him that night around 7:30, 8:00, but the messages just went straight to voicemail.
Yeah.
And by Tuesday morning, he hadn't shown up for work to open the gate, which is part of his daily routine. So at that 48-hour mark, just 2 days after the date, Carson Cytrunk was officially a missing person.
And this is where the tension just skyrockets. For the family, the clock is ticking, and they're thrown into that awful limbo, Unable to move on, but desperate for answers.
And for the investigators, the physical challenge was huge.
Oh, daunting. This is rural Mississippi. The search area covered hundreds of square miles of dense forests, back roads, isolated oil fields. They had one core piece of evidence, one theory, really, to base their whole strategy on.
The truck.
The truck. The probability was extremely high that where that very distinctive truck was, Carson would be as well.
So that urgency, that ticking clock, it demanded everything they had. They were tracking all his bank transactions, which led them to a gas station over 50 miles from his home.
A quick stop.
Just a quick stop. It was the last confirmed use of his credit card. So that gave them a geographical marker, but the search for that vehicle was still on.
The break comes on September 6th. The sheriff's office gets the call. The truck has been found. It's in a residential area.
And this is the twist that immediately turns this from a missing person case into a deeply suspicious investigation. A woman was occupying the vehicle.
She was found sitting right there on the tailgate.
Right on the tailgate with the keys in her pocket. And that woman was Carson's Snapchat date, Insco.
So she's immediately the primary person of interest. But her deception was, it was immediate and it was absolute. She claimed she didn't know Carson Cytrunk at all.
Not at all.
She said she got the vehicle from somebody else, an alleged owner she called Sini. They checked every database, local law enforcement, FBI, DEA. No such person existed.
It was a complete fabrication from the start. Totally.
So they have a suspect sitting in the victim's truck, caught in a lie. They immediately start processing the vehicle. Crime scene investigators find what appeared to be blood in the back bed of the truck and some gun parts.
Right.
But here's the critical procedural snag. Legally, at this stage, it was still just a missing person investigation. They had strong suspicion, but they had no body and no confirmed DNA evidence that a murder had even occurred.
And this is that agonizing procedural moment that investigators always talk about. They knew she was lying.
They felt it.
But they lacked the hard evidence, the DNA results, or the body to hold her on a murder warrant. The investigator in charge, and I'm quoting from our source material here, he said, I couldn't hold her in jail just because I suspected her.
They had to follow the letter of the law.
They had to. So they released her, pending further evidence.
And that's the gap, isn't it? The gap between knowing the truth and being able to legally prove it. That procedural necessity allowed the primary suspect to just walk free. which, as you can imagine, caused a massive uproar among the family and all the assisting police who were convinced they had their person.
Yeah.
That frustration, though, it just fueled the search. They needed to find Carson, and the urgency was even higher now, knowing the suspect was back on the street. Investigators continued their sort of low-tech search, notifying truckers who travel those remote oil fields to look out for anything.
Even a smell?
Even the smell of decomposition. And 3 days after Sierra was released, a truck driver called them back, "Hey man, I found a dead body over here."
Whoa.
Carson's body was found dumped in a remote oil field, close to a tree line. And investigators noted these really distinct tire tracks leading right up to the site, confirming the body had been backed up to that spot and just dumped from a vehicle.
The preliminary autopsy confirmed it was Carson, and the way he died was just brutal. He had been shot twice.
First in the chest and then in the head. So the investigation instantly pivots from search and suspense to a full-scale homicide case. Now, the goal wasn't just to prove Sierra lied, but to reconstruct her movements after the murder.
And this is where we shift to the high-tech hunting ground. They turned to something called telematics. It's the process of getting detailed data from a vehicle's onboard computer. For our listeners who might not be familiar, this is essentially a black box for your car.
That's the perfect analogy. Telematics records everything: ignition on, ignition off, doors opening and closing, seatbelt usage, speed, braking patterns, and most importantly, for a crime location data.
So they got a warrant and pulled all that data from Carson's truck.
They did.
That location data was the digital breadcrumb trail. But how accurate is it? Is it like real-time GPS?
That's a great question, and it's a crucial limitation. It's not real time. The system pings location data in intervals. So maybe every 15 minutes, maybe every 30. It depends on the car.
Okay.
So while you get these location points, you don't get the precise moment-by-moment movement. This means they couldn't pinpoint the exact location of the murder itself, but they could identify every single stop the truck made afterward.
And those stopping points, they were gold for triangulation. The telematics data led them to specific areas, which allowed police to cross-reference with traditional CCTV footage.
Exactly. And they found clear video of Sierra driving Carson's truck alone in a town called Prentice, going through the drive-thru at a Ward's restaurant.
And they also found footage of her in McGee at a Hibbett Sports, where she's on camera buying new clothes and shoes.
That footage provided 2 key insights. First, it places her firmly in possession of the stolen truck, driving it alone, which just blows up her story about not knowing Carson.
Right.
Second, and maybe more chillingly, it showed her just running mundane, day-to-day errands, displaying this profoundly carefree and callous attitude just hours after they believe she murdered him. It speaks volumes about her psychological state.
So the evidence wasn't just about the aftermath. They needed proof that the date itself was the trap. Investigators went back to that gas station CCTV footage from the night he disappeared. The video shows Carson pulling up to the pump, but you can see a white female in the passenger seat who never gets out.
The video quality wasn't good enough for a positive ID, but they noticed an African-American male approached the passenger side window and spoke with the person inside. So investigators immediately made it a priority to find that witness.
And he gave a full statement?
A full statement. He confirmed that the person sitting in the passenger seat with Carson was Sierra Insco, and that instantly, irrevocably, shattered her core claim that she didn't know him and got the truck from Sione.
And because this whole crime was born online, they went back to the source, social media. This is where the concept of a preservation letter comes into play. For our listeners, this is a legal tool police use. They send formal letters to companies like Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook.
Exactly. A preservation letter legally requires the social media company to hold and prevent the deletion of all data associated with a specific account, even for apps like Snapchat that advertise disappearing messages.
So the idea that data disappears forever is a myth in a criminal case.
It's a total myth. They got the Snapchat records, which confirmed the electronic contact between Sierra and Carson, providing the digital proof of their relationship and, well, more proof that she was lying.
And as they built her full profile, this chilling and extensive modus operandi emerged. Sierra had maintained multiple online profiles. Some were sexualized, others used different names, different life stories.
This was not random violence. This was a calculated lifestyle of deception. Her pattern was highly consistent. Identify vulnerable men, enter a relationship under a completely false guise, using these outrageous lies like pretending to be a nurse with terminal cancer,
Unbelievable.
and then stealing their property. She had a history of stealing money, even ran off with another man's truck after staying with him.
But the source material underlines a terrifying distinction here. While theft and deception were her MO, this was the first time it had escalated to murder.
And this reveals the premeditated motive. Sierra had been telling people for months before this all happened that she was going to get a new truck for her birthday coming up. She didn't see people as human beings. She had zero care or concern for Carson.
He was just an object.
He was an object to use and dispose of to achieve her goal. She needed a new truck, and Carson was just the means to that end.
So by September 10th, the investigation finally gets the definitive evidence they need for a murder warrant. DNA analysis confirms the blood found in the back of the truck was Carson's, but the analysis went deeper than just identification.
Right, and this is critical. Crime scene investigators determined this wasn't just passive blood residue, it was spatter blood.
Meaning?
Meaning it resulted from the high-velocity exit of gunshots from the body. That finding was the forensic smoking gun. If the body had just been dumped in the truck, you'd see dripping or smearing. Spatter blood proves the shooting happened while Carson was in the back of that truck.
It sealed the physical link between Sierra, the location, and the actual murder.
And the final piece. A T-shirt found in the back seat with Carson's blood on it. Investigators managed to extract Sierra's DNA profile from the neck and underarm area, right where sweat and skin cells accumulate.
Which unequivocally placed her inside that vehicle, handling the aftermath of the murder scene.
Absolutely.
So with the DNA and the motive established, the murder warrant was issued on September 11th. But Sierra immediately goes dark. She starts running, trying to steal more vehicles to escape.
And the manhunt was successful because investigators convinced her mother to cooperate. The mother was talking with Sierra through a specific Facebook Messenger account.
And once they had that account, they could subpoena the records, link the communications to an IP address, and that led them right to a residence where she was hiding.
And the investigator's account of the arrest is chilling. Sierra just walks right out of the house, shows zero guilt, zero shock, and immediately says, "I knew you were coming for me." He described her as one of the most cool, calm, and collected murderers he had ever encountered.
Wow. So with the killer in custody, the prosecution faced a really critical choice about the charge. Capital murder versus first-degree murder.
And the distinction in Mississippi is key here. Capital murder applies if someone kills another person while committing another underlying violent crime, like robbery.
And the truck was the robbery.
The truck was the robbery. The state could argue the killing occurred during the commission of that felony, so that elevated the charge to capital murder.
Which meant the death penalty was on the table. But the prosecutor had a very serious, very sensitive discussion with Carson's parents about that.
Yeah, they explained the practical reality. A death penalty conviction, even if successful, would lead to probably 20-plus years of appeals.
Forcing the family to relive the trauma over and over.
Constantly. And the family chose, quite powerfully, against it. Their rationale was, nothing will bring him back, but she will have to live with that. They chose emotional closure over a protracted legal punishment.
In the outcome. Nearly 2 years later, Sierra Insco changed her plea to guilty, avoiding a trial, and got a reduced sentence. 40 years.
And it was only then, at the sentencing hearing, that she offered an apology to the family for the very first time.
This deep dive gives us such critical insights into modern crime solving. We've seen the power of telematics to rebuild a timeline, the reality that preservation letters mean digital messages don't truly disappear forever, and the forensic science, like spatter blood analysis, needed to prove what happened and where.
It absolutely reinforces that core psychological lesson, that these profoundly calculated individuals can create personas and lie effortlessly. The investigator describes Sierra as just pure evil, someone who could look you straight in the eye and lie while seeing people as disposable objects to get what she wanted. In this case, a new truck.
The source material quotes a heartbreaking line from the poem read at Carson's funeral. "Little man, there's nothing little about the way you trusted." And this raises a really essential question for all of us, in this digital age. Given the reality of deception, like Sierra Insco's, how do we protect our natural human tendency to trust without becoming paralyzed by suspicion when meeting someone new online? What's the right balance between skepticism and connection? Something for you to mull over until our next deep dive.